Section 1. The illusion of light. They told you that spiritual awakening would bring peace, that once you woke up, you would feel calm, centered, and endlessly grateful. But that's the lie. That's the illusion the world sells. The idea that awakening is the same as comfort. In truth, spiritual awakening is destruction. It's a death before the rebirth, because before you can see the light, you have to face the dark. The dark side of awakening begins when you realize how much of your life was built on illusion. The friends who only loved the mask, not the man, the goals you chased because someone else told you they mattered. The beliefs that gave you safety, not truth. You don't find yourself in awakening, you lose everything you thought was you. That's the paradox. When your consciousness expands, your old world collapses, your relationships shift, your ambitions mutate, and the things that once gave you joy begin to taste like ash. You start seeing through people's words, through their motives, through your own delusions. You start seeing how the human mind lies, constantly to preserve its fragile ego. And the moment you awaken to that, the moment you truly see, you can't go back to sleep. That's why most people never finish their awakening. They stop halfway, where it starts to hurt. They say, "This is too heavy. I'll go back to the comfort of my distractions." But those who endure, those who walk through the fire instead of running from it, they don't just wake up. They transform. They burn away what's false until only truth remains. Awakening doesn't give you peace. It gives you clarity, and clarity is the most painful gift you'll ever receive, because when you see clearly, you see everything, including the parts of yourself you tried to hide. Section 2. The collapse of identity. The moment spiritual awakening truly begins is the moment your identity begins to die. You start to realize that the you you've been defending isn't real. It's a collection of stories. Stories about what you like, what you hate, what you believe, and what you fear. But these stories were written by other people, your parents, your culture, your failures, your trauma, and one by one, awakening tears those stories apart. You begin to ask, who am I when I'm not trying to please anyone? Who am I when I'm not performing for approval? Who am I when I stop pretending to be someone at all? And that's when panic sets in, because your ego, your old self, will fight to survive. It will whisper, "You're losing your mind." It will say, "You're not supposed to question this. Just go back to the way things were." But the truth is, the collapse of identity is not madness. It's purification. You're not losing yourself. You're losing the lies that have been suffocating your true self. Still, it feels like death, because in a way it is. It's the death of everything false, every mask, every label, every illusion that kept you small. The ego is terrified of awakening because awakening exposes its fragility. It thrives on attachment to status, validation, success, and comfort. When those attachments are ripped away, you feel hollow. That hollow space, that void, is where most people turn back. They numb themselves. They go back to chasing recognition, attention, pleasure, or noise, anything to avoid that silence. But that silence is sacred, because in that silence, you begin to hear your real voice for the first time. It's quiet at first, calm, detached, honest. It says, "You are not the storm. You are the awareness behind it." That's when you begin to understand you were never your identity. You were the observer all along, watching the story unfold. And once you see that, you can never unsee it. Section 3, the isolation phase. When you outgrow the world, there comes a moment after awakening that feels like exile. You begin to drift away from the people, habits, and environments that once felt like home, not because you hate them, but because you've outgrown them. You start seeing the world differently. Conversations that used to excite you now feel empty. Parties that once filled you with energy now drain you. Even relationships, built on years of connection, suddenly feel fragile, as if they were sustained by illusions you can no longer believe in. You feel alone, deeply, achingly alone. It's not the kind of loneliness that can be solved by company. It's existential, because once you wake up, you realize that most of the world is still asleep. You watch people chase things that don't matter. You watch them seek validation in places that will never satisfy them. You watch them repeat the same cycles of pain, and no matter how much you want to shake them awake, you can't, because awakening is not something you can give someone else. It's a fire that must be lit from within, and so you retreat, not out of arrogance, but necessity. You begin to crave silence. You stop forcing conversations that lead nowhere. You stop pretending to relate to what no longer resonates. This isolation isn't punishment, it's initiation. It's the universe stripping away the noise so you can hear your own soul. The ancient Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius spent years writing to himself in solitude, not because he hated people, but because he knew the mind must retreat inward to regain its strength. In silence, you start to understand your emotions. You see the fears that were driving you. You notice how your need for approval was just a mask for your own insecurity. Isolation becomes the crucible where your spirit is reforged. It's where loneliness transforms into independence, where detachment becomes clarity, where you stop needing the world's validation because you've finally met yourself. This phase can last months, even years, and it feels endless. But what most people don't know is it's the bridge between your old life and your true power. When you stop needing others to understand you, you become free. When you stop chasing connection out of fear of being alone, you become untouchable. When you stop explaining your path to those who can't see it, you transcend, because at the end of isolation lies something priceless: inner sovereignty, the ability to walk alone and still feel whole. Section 4. The Ego's Revenge. When your mind turns against you, after the silence comes something even darker: the ego's revenge. You thought you'd left it behind. You thought awakening meant the ego was dead, but it's not dead. It's waiting, it's studying you, it's evolving with you. The ego doesn't vanish after awakening. It mutates, it changes shape, grows sharper, and begins whispering in new ways. Before, it used to tempt you with attention, pleasure, or success. Now it tempts you with pride, with superiority, with the illusion of enlightenment itself. It says you're not like them anymore. You see things others can't. It says you're awakened, they're still asleep. And in that moment, the ego wears the mask of spirituality. This is the hidden trap, the spiritual ego. The phase where awakening becomes performance, where humility dies and self-righteousness takes its place. You start judging others for not understanding. You start thinking you've transcended pain, until pain returns. And when it does, you feel ashamed. You think, if I'm awakened, why am I still angry? Why am I still afraid? But here's the truth. The ego never disappears because it's not your enemy. It's part of you, the shadow side of consciousness. It exists to challenge you, to test you, to sharpen your awareness. The goal isn't to kill the ego, it's to master it. When you resist your ego, it grows stronger. When you observe it, it loses control. That's the Stoic secret: detachment, not denial. Marcus Aurelius faced this battle every day. He ruled an empire, yet wrote to himself, "Do not be proud of your understanding or dismayed by ignorance. Remember, you too are human." That's the humility that keeps awakening pure. The moment you believe you've transcended the ego, it owns you again. So watch yourself closely. Watch when your wisdom becomes a way to feel superior. Watch when your calm becomes a weapon to prove control. Watch when you crave being seen as awakened. That's the ego dressing itself in divine robes. And if you can catch it in the act, if you can look it in the eyes and simply say, "I see you," it loses its power. Because awareness is the ultimate weapon. The ego can only survive in darkness. Once you shine light on it, it retreats. This phase is not failure. It's refinement. It's where humility is reborn. where true mastery begins, not by defeating the mind, but by understanding it completely. Section 5. The collapse of meaning. When nothing feels real anymore, there's a point in every awakening that feels like a total collapse. Not just of your identity, not just of your relationships, but of meaning itself. The things that once gave your life purpose suddenly feel hollow. The ambitions that used to drive you lose their spark. The goals that once defined your existence now seem trivial. It's not depression, it's disillusionment, the breaking of the spell that kept you hypnotized by the world. You start seeing how much of human life revolves around illusion. Status, validation, possessions, power, everyone. Chasing things that vanish the moment they're attained. And when you see through it all, when you pierce the veil, you're left staring into an abyss. You ask yourself, if everything I believed in was a lie, what's the point of anything? If success, love, and recognition are impermanent, why even try? This is the darkest night of awakening, the nihilistic stage. It's when your old motivations die, but your new ones haven't yet been born. And this is where many people give up. They think awakening has taken something from them. They feel empty, disconnected from the world, from others, from themselves. But this emptiness is not punishment, it's preparation. You are not losing meaning. You are clearing space for a deeper one, because what you're really experiencing is the breakdown of false meaning, meaning borrowed from culture, religion, approval, and ego, and in its place, something raw begins to emerge, something self-created. Marcus Aurelius understood this too. He wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." He realized that meaning is not found in the world, it's built within. The collapse of meaning is not the end of your awakening, it's the halfway point, the void between destruction and rebirth. You have to endure it without rushing to fill it. Don't reach for quick distractions or new identities. Let the emptiness do its work, because only in silence can truth rebuild itself. Only when you stop grasping for purpose can authentic purpose appear. Soon, you begin to notice something subtle, a shift. You stop needing the world to validate your existence. You stop seeking meaning from life, and instead, you start giving meaning to life. You realize that meaning isn't something you find, it's something you choose. You choose it every day through discipline, presence, and purpose, through the way you carry yourself, through the values you embody. That's the moment when awakening stops being destruction and becomes creation. The old meaning collapses so that a stronger one can rise, not based on illusion, but on clarity, not on what you get, but on who you become. Section 6, the rebuilding phase. Constructing a new inner order when the collapse is complete, when your illusions, attachments, and false meanings have burned away. What remains is stillness, a strange, heavy quiet that almost feels sacred. You're not the same person anymore. You've seen too much, felt too deeply, lost too thoroughly to ever go back. And that's where the real awakening begins, in the rebuilding, the reconstruction of your inner world from the ashes of what no longer serves you. But this rebuilding isn't about creating another identity. It's about establishing an inner order, a mental architecture built on truth, not illusion, on discipline, not desire, on awareness, not reaction. At this stage, you stop chasing peace and start practicing it. You stop talking about change and then start living it. You stop looking outward for answers, and in turn, inward for command. You begin to realize that spiritual growth isn't about floating above the world. It's about walking through it with mastery. It's about learning to rule your mind. Like an emperor, firm, focused, and unshaken. Marcus Aurelius called this the inner citadel, a fortress of reason within the soul. When the external world crumbles, the inner citadel stands. When chaos reigns outside, the citadel remains calm inside. That's what you're building now. You stop reacting to every emotion like a slave to circumstance. You start observing naming them, understanding their source. Anger no longer controls you. You study it. Fear no longer paralyzes you. You confront it. Desire no longer deceives you. You master it. This is the phase where self-discipline becomes your greatest weapon. You begin to crave structure. You wake up early, not because someone told you to, but because your purpose demands it. You meditate not to feel good, but to remain sharp and present. You speak less, think more, act deliberately. Every move is intentional. Every thought becomes a tool, not a trap. And slowly, you begin to rebuild your life on unshakable foundations. Clarity over chaos, discipline over emotion, purpose over pleasure. People around you may not understand this transformation. They'll say you've changed. And they'll be right. You've stopped needing the world to hold you up. You've learned to hold yourself. The rebuilding phase is not glamorous. It's quiet, difficult, and often lonely, but it's where strength is born. The kind of strength that doesn't scream, doesn't boast, doesn't seek validation. It simply is. You no longer need to prove who you are because you know who you are. You've built your own order, your own discipline, your own peace. And from that, everything else begins to align. Because when your mind becomes structured, your life begins to follow. And when your life aligns with truth, you become unstoppable. Section 7. The return of emotion. Turning pain into power. At some point in your awakening, after the silence and rebuilding, emotions return, but they don't return the way they used to. They're quieter now, sharper, more refined. It's like you're feeling the same emotions through a different lens, not as a victim of them, but as an observer, a sculptor shaping energy into meaning. You begin to realize something profound. Emotions are not the enemy. They are messengers, carriers of information from the depths of your psyche. Every wave of fear, anger, or sadness isn't here to destroy you. It's here to teach you. In the early stages of awakening, most people try to suppress these emotions. They confuse stillness with numbness. They think being spiritual means feeling nothing, but numbness isn't enlightenment. It's escape. True mastery comes when you can sit with your pain without running from it, when you can feel anger without becoming consumed by it, when you can channel sadness into clarity and fear into fuel. Marcus Aurelius understood this perfectly. He didn't reject emotion, he redefined its role. He wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but your estimate of it." The Stoic doesn't avoid emotion. He transforms it through perception. Pain becomes perspective. Fear becomes awareness. Sadness becomes depth, and anger, then when purified by discipline, becomes strength. This is the phase where you learn to transmute emotion into energy. When something hurts you, instead of asking, "Why me?" you ask, "What is this trying to forge in me?" When someone betrays you, instead of collapsing, you study the wound, you extract wisdom from it. When you fail, you use the sting not as punishment, but as a reminder you are not done yet. Emotional mastery doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you feel everything, but you decide what each feeling becomes. You take ownership of your inner chemistry. You turn every low into fuel for your next evolution. Think about it. What has truly built your strength? It wasn't success. It wasn't validation. It was pain. It was rejection. It was loss. You were carved by suffering, and the carving made you sharp. So when pain returns, welcome it. When emotion rises, observe it. When the heart aches, listen to it. That's how you grow beyond reaction into transmutation. Because the greatest alchemy isn't turning lead into gold. It's turning pain into power. And once you learn that skill, nothing external can ever control you again. You'll no longer fear emotion. You'll use it as your compass, your internal fire. Every time life hits you, you'll turn that impact into strength. And that is when awakening evolves from suffering into supremacy. Section 8. The detachment paradox. Caring deeply. without depending on anything. One of the most misunderstood parts of awakening is detachment. People think detachment means apathy, that to be free, you must feel nothing, want nothing, need nothing. But that's not detachment. That's avoidance. Real detachment is something far more powerful. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. It means you can care deeply, act boldly, love fully, but without losing yourself in the outcome. The Stoics never taught emotional suppression. They taught emotional freedom, the art of caring without being consumed. Marcus Aurelius still ruled an empire. Seneca still served, still wrote, still loved. Epictetus still taught, still mentored. None of them withdrew from life. They simply refused to be enslaved by it. When you master detachment, you walk through the world like a warrior in calm armor. You can love someone without needing them to complete you. You can pursue success without letting failure destroy you. You can lose everything and still remain. Whole detachment is not the rejection of the world. It's the transcendence of dependency. You begin to understand. You are not your possessions. You are not your status. You are not your relationships. You are the consciousness. Behind all of it, the observer who remains even when everything else fades. And from that awareness comes a strange new kind of love, a pure love, because it is free. You no longer love others to fill your emptiness. You love them because you are full. You no longer help others to feel superior. You help them because it's your nature to give. This is the detachment paradox. When you no longer need anything from the world, you become capable of giving everything to it. That's what makes you unstoppable. The person who doesn't cling cannot be manipulated. The person who doesn't crave approval cannot be humiliated. The person who acts from purpose, not fear, cannot be broken. That's true power. Not the kind that shouts, but the kind that moves in silence, unbothered, unshaken, untouchable. The Stoic doesn't isolate from life. He engages with it. From a place of calm mastery, he plays the game, but never forgets it's a game. He walks among the noise, but never lets it enter his mind. This is the essence of freedom, to move through the chaos of life with peace in your heart, to care deeply but hold lightly, to love fiercely but without chains, to act with purpose but without desperation. That's not detachment, that's divinity, grounded in human form. Section 9. The unshakable mind. Building mental armor against chaos. Once you understand detachment, truly understand it, your mind begins to harden, not into coldness, but into clarity, not into indifference, but into indestructibility. This is where awakening transforms into strength, where peace becomes power. The unshakable mind doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means pain no longer defines you. It means that no matter what chaos erupts around you, you remain centered, calm, composed, and alert. The Stoics called this apatheia, not apathy, but mastery over emotional disturbance. It is the mind trained to stand still amid storms, to see through illusion, to choose response over reaction. And here's the truth. The unshakable mind isn't built through peace. It's forged through fire. Every betrayal you've endured, every failure that crushed your spirit, every night you spent wrestling your own darkness, that was the training ground. You were being tempered like steel in the forge, hammered, burned and reshaped. Each strike made you sharper, each flame made you stronger, and now you've begun to see the pattern. The world doesn't test you to break you. It tests you to reveal you, because the unshakable mind isn't born from comfort. It's born from resilience. Marcus Aurelius led armies through plague and war, yet his writings overflow with peace. He said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He wasn't theorizing. He was surviving through Stoicism. This is where you learn to do the same. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What is this moment trying to teach me?" Your enemies become your lessons. Your failures become your maps. Your pain becomes your polish. The unshakable mind is not built overnight. It's built in silence, through repetition, through waking up every day and choosing discipline over emotion, through facing what others run from, through controlling what you can and surrendering what you can't. And eventually, the world notices. You become harder to provoke, harder to manipulate, harder to discourage, because chaos has no leverage against a man who has made peace with himself. When you reach this stage, people will wonder what changed, why their words don't affect you anymore, why rejection no longer breaks you, why you seem calm even when everything's falling apart, and you'll simply smile because they'll never understand how many times you burned and rebuilt to become this composed. The unshakable mind is not a gift, it's a reward earned through fire, focus, and faith in your own endurance. This is when you stop merely surviving. You start leading silently, stoically, unmovable. Because when your mind bows to nothing, the world begins to bow to you. Section 10. The Awakening. After awakening, living as the Stoic sage, you've walked through the fire. You've faced your illusions, your shadows, your loneliness, and your fears, and what's left is something pure, something that can't be taken from you. This is the awakening after awakening, the phase where you no longer chase enlightenment, because you are it. You've stopped searching for meaning in others. You've stopped trying to prove your worth. You've stopped needing to be seen, because you've seen yourself clearly. For the first time, you are no longer ruled by impulse, emotion, or ego. You act, not react. You observe, not obsess. You move, not out of fear, but from purpose. This is what the Stoics meant by virtue. It's not moral perfection, it's alignment of mind, heart, and action. You live in harmony with nature, meaning you live in truth. You do what's right. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's the mark of the awakened Stoic, not to talk endlessly about wisdom, but to embody it. You no longer need validation. You no longer need revenge. You no longer need control, because you've mastered the only domain that ever mattered, your inner world. And the irony is, once you stop chasing, everything comes to you. Respect, power, peace. Not because you demanded them, but because you radiated them. This is the quiet power that unsettles the world. The energy of someone who needs nothing, fears nothing, and seeks only truth. You've transcended the lower battles, the opinions, the comparisons, the petty wars of the ego. You no longer fight for attention. You fight for alignment. You no longer crave love, you are love. And now, you move differently. Your silence commands presence. Your patience feels dangerous. Your calmness feels powerful. Because you've realized that the ultimate goal of awakening isn't to escape the world. It's to walk through it, untouchable. To live among chaos and remain whole. To serve, not for applause, but from understanding. You begin to teach. Without words, you begin to lead. Without followers, you begin to heal others, not by saving them, but by embodying peace. This is the paradox of the awakened Stoic. You become more detached, yet more compassionate. You care less about being loved, yet love more purely. You stop needing to win, yet you can't lose. Because once you understand the dark side of awakening, the loneliness, the shedding, the ego death, you emerge free, not spiritually superior, not enlightened in the way social media portrays it, but real, present, humble, unshakable. You no longer seek to escape reality. You've mastered it, and from this place, your purpose becomes clear: to live with wisdom, to serve with strength, to walk the world as a lighthouse, not chasing ships, but standing still so others can find their way. That's what true awakening means. Not becoming a saint, not transcending pain, but walking through fire and emerging with grace. So if you've made it this far, If you've endured your shadows and reclaimed your mind, you've already done what few ever will. Now, live like it. Walk as one who knows. Speak less. Observe more. Detach from noise. Attach to truth. Be so grounded that chaos bows before your calm, because that's the end of awakening and the beginning of mastery. If this message reached you, if something in it struck a chord or silenced the noise in your mind, then remember this moment, because awakening is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you always were. Beneath the fear, beneath the masks, beneath the noise, you are not behind, you are not broken, you are becoming. Like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca and Epictetus walk the path with humility and fire. Let your silence speak louder than your suffering, and let your peace disturb the chaos, because when you finally accept that no one can walk this path for you, you also realize no one can stop you. If this video spoke to your soul, like the video, it helps spread Stoic wisdom to those who need it most. Comment below with your own original motivational quote, your personal Stoic truth, and turn on notifications so you never miss another Stoic Life episode, because this is your awakening and the world is waiting for the strongest version of you to rise.